Great to be with you for Wednesday's edition of Footy Talk. Of course, we do it a little differently on a Wednesday. We take a look at the footy world from the players' point of view. We give you the insight into what it's like to be behind the headlines as well. As always, plenty to talk about on Hump Day. I'm Jack Heverin, David Zaharakis. Firstly, good to see you. What have you done to yourself?
Good to see you. Yes. Well, I've just got back from America, over in Colorado, which is beautiful, by the way. Nice sunny part of the world. I raced injured, which I shouldn't have done, in the half Ironman over there. I knew going into it from Port Mac I was injured, and then ran on it and probably made it a bit worse. But it wasn't bone. It's just a bit of ITB friction for any runners out there listening that know what that is. Got a cortisone in it yesterday, and hopefully I'm back in a couple of weeks. And my next event's not till September, so I've got a bit of time.
Good.
Yes.
You just rest up and recover over there.
rest
Now,
up.
I introduced you first because normally and always I would introduce our
Yes,
Queen
you would.
Abbey
Yeah, you
Holmes
got me there.
first. But, I mean, we're not allowed to give her a peck on the cheek now. We have to reach over and give a little high five from across the desk.
Fist bump,
Abs,
just a little fist bump.
little fist bump. Morning to you.
Good morning, guys. It is great to be here. Isn't it the most ridiculous news story you've ever heard? I'm glad that it's now past us. We can move on.
No, I thought you shouldn't have done it.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
Mate. I gave you a kiss on the cheek when you walked in today.
I know.
But
It's
no,
ridiculous.
I'm still blown away that was even a news story, but it's all been cleared up and we can move on and talk about some footy.
If this was on Monday, I would have gone hard. But no, it's already been 2 days, so
Yeah.
it's
Ridiculous.
outrageous. Yes, let's move on.
Let's keep, what a load of shit. Let's keep on moving. Let's get to our thoughts of the week. And Abs, of course, you always have the new ball for thought of the week.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yay or nay, all right? But I'm pretty bullish here that I don't think the Melbourne Football Club are going to play finals in 2024.
Oh.
So currently sitting at 11th spot. They've got North on Saturday at the MCG, and North certainly showed plenty against the Pies on the weekend. They were really good to watch, particularly in that first half. Lions, Eagles, and then they go on a run of Essendon, Dockers, Giants, Western Bulldogs, Port, Gold Coast and Pies. So throughout that kind of 2-month period are a number of sides that are all backed up in that logjam of teams that are going to be, really battling it out for a top 8 spot. With Petracca missing, he's got no contact for 3 months through this injury.
Yep.
Oliver's there, but he's certainly not at his best. And I just think that that midfield group has been, the dominant force of this Melbourne Football Club for such a long period of time. And not only that, they don't have the depth that they've had in previous years. Yep. I mean, we spoke about this last week, but James Jordan up in Sydney, James Holmes goes to the Doggies, Angus Brayshaw, he retires. So they've gone from having a lot of options in that midfield group to actually being quite skinny. So, and I think you would both agree with me that probably the one, not negative, but the one aspect to Melbourne's game that hasn't quite worked for them over the last 4 years or so has been that forward line.
Yep.
So if the midfield's not firing like it has been over the past few years, the forwards aren't getting that supply. I just think that it might be a little bit challenging for them in that forward half over the next few months.
I only asked this because he sat in this chair last Wednesday while we were both away. Why don't they play Ben Brown and just see what happens?
Yeah.
They can't do any worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I say that, I'm not trying to be negative against Ben at all, but he's a traditional key forward and they need a bit of stability and a bit of structure down that end of the ground.
And I think from Ben Brown's perspective, watching this play out over the last few months, he's playing in the VFL with Casey. He's hungry. He's not angry, but desperate, to get back into the side and show them what he's capable of. So I would love for him to come back into the side. But no, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I think we sat here maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago and we were talking about the top 4 and who we thought could stay in and drop out. And I was pretty adamant. I said Melbourne would stay in because of their system.
Yeah.
I really backed their system hard. Their defensive, the way they play, they don't let teams score. Then throughout the last 4 weeks, they had West Coast kick 105 against them, Freo kick 141, and then they lost on the weekend, 89 points against Collingwood last week. Their system is now not holding up defensively, and you spoke about the fact that they couldn't score, so that was the one thing. Yep, all right, they got no forward line, they can't score, but their system keeps them in games. So
their
they
midfield and their defence.
Their midfield and their defence, they win games by kicking 70 points, but the opposition kicks 50.
Yeah.
Now they can't even do that. They can't defend. Whether it's the depth that's been tested because players have left the footy club, players have retired. Obviously now you got Petracca out, who they put forward to kick 5 a couple of weeks ago. Now they've got none of those 3 that are their strength at the moment. So they are really, I mean, they're 11th, but they're probably are the 11th, 12th, 13th best team in the comp right now because they don't have, their system doesn't work anymore. They've got no offense, which we've known for many years, and they've lost players in their depth. So the reality is they're not really that top 6 side anymore in the comp. And it's pretty scary because a side that won a flag, lost straight sets, had a lot of other things going on in this footy club over the last couple of years off the field.
Yeah.
And then they lose players to other clubs, their depth, and now their performances on the field they're really dropping out. So is this the beginning of the spiral for Melbourne?
Potentially.
It's not looking good.
It's not looking
When you
good.
two dress it up like that, and I sort of had no firm opinion before we started, I'm with you both. They're in a world of pain right
Well,
now.
Petracca has been that one. You just touched on it, Zaka, that has been Mr. Fix-It. When things aren't quite going right inside forward 50, you know you can chuck him there and he'll kick you a handful of goals. So with him not there for a significant amount of time now, 3 months no contact, and then having to build up through that.
They also have forwards that can't kick straight at the moment, can they?
Yeah.
Like they're scoring up forward. Bailey Fritz kicking 1 goal, 4 or 5, and they got players up there who are genuine. Well, when they get good supply, they can kick goals. But at the moment, they're all out of form as well. So that's bad. Bad kicking is bad footing. It's not helping them at all.
You're on a roll. What's your thought of the week, Zaka?
My thought of the week is Brisbane and Hawthorn. Can they? And what I mean by that is last year we had GWS and Carlton made absolutely amazing 1 in 20, 30, 40-year runs, and both of them made it to the prelims last year, which was unbelievable. Now, I love watching Hawthorn play. They are an unbelievable young side who you can tell the camaraderie, the confidence. It can go over a little bit into arrogance, but I love that because they're a young side that clearly love each other. They're players that get around each other. And also then Brisbane's finding a bit of form. They might get some players back soon. They're winning games at the moment. They need to win just to keep ticking their season over. My question to you is both of those teams, can they make the 8? And then also, can they really shake it up at the end of the season?
I think Brisbane absolutely are going to go on a run.
Me too.
Yeah. And as you just touched on, GWS and Carlton only last year went from 14th, 15th in the competition around this time of year to playing off in a preliminary final. But Brisbane, we know, have not been at their best to start the season. What were they? 0-3 before they taste their first win. They had some off-field sagas, some rumours floating around, which is never nice when you've got such external noise around a football club. But I was up there on Friday night against St Kilda, and it was an interesting game, yes. Saints still managed to find 16 goals. It was a really strange game, that one. But Brisbane, they responded every time they were challenged. And I think that's the sign of a team that is starting to find their gel. What they did against the Western Bulldogs, 43-point winners the week before, they're just starting to find their groove, and I think that they will have a solid run into a final series. I would love to see Hawthorn play finals. I'm such a big fan of what they're doing, what Sam Mitchell is doing. I'm a big Jack Ginnivan fan. Just the energy and the excitement that he oozes into that forward half. Will Day, as soon as Will Day came back into the side from injury, that just added a different dimension to their midfield.
D'Ambrosio on the wing.
D'Ambrosio on the wing. Absolutely. What a find.
Oh, no. Essendon let him go.
What a find. And James Sicily, the captain of this football club, what he did on the weekend, he had 33 disposals in Dusty's 300th, let's call it that game. But I just think that he heads up that defence beautifully. And just the kids, the youth, the injection. Cal Shadir, really love what he's doing since his debut a month or so ago. So I'm excited for Hawks. It might not be this year because there are a number of quality teams really vying for a top 8 spot. I would love to see it happen. But if you're a Hawthorn fan, you're excited for what's to come over the years to come.
So question to both of you then, just with the way that the ladder is, and if you follow history, the likelihood of both of them making it from here is pretty low.
Yep.
But if one of them had to make it, who's more likely to finish in the top 8 by the end of the season?
I would say Brisbane, purely based off experience amongst their list.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing, but I was going to say Brisbane because they play games at the Gabba, but then this year the Gabba hasn't been...
No, it hasn't been the Fortress.
So without looking at their future schedule and who they've got, I don't know who has the toughest schedule or whatever, but I would say the same thing, that Brisbane are still the reigning grand finalists. Yeah. They've still got a lot of experience. Ashcroft coming back in the side soon for them, and their stars, their top-end stars... Hipwood kicking 6, was it 6 last week, and Joe kicking 5. Hugh McCluggage playing great footy at the moment. Their top-end talent is still really good, and I think that can get them over the line early, whereas Hawthorn are playing some amazing footy. at this stage. But then with the kids, they can drop off later in the year. So you just don't know whether that excitement and exuberance carries on. But Brisbane, it probably will.
Sneaky little thought of the week from me quickly before we get to the first main topic. Jake Waterman's season has been outstanding. Now, we are a national podcast, so we're not going to go with this, because he's not playing in Melbourne scenario. We watch all of the teams, and we're all on the road each week seeing them. Yeah. Jake Waterman's season has been brilliant. 33 goals in a team who have been bottom 4 all season long. Yep. Hard enough to get an inside 50 half the time, let alone be it a quality one. He still managed to kick the goals that he had. He's now their number 1 forward. Now, Oscar Allen should come back this week for the Eagles. Yep. But for the first time ever, it's going to be about how Oscar can play with Jake, not how Jake can play with Oscar. So you couple that in with all of the health challenges that Jake's had in the last couple of years as well. His season has been fantastic. For
so many years, the Eagles have really struggled off the back of not having that forward there. I mean, Oscar Allen, captain of the club, he's been so injury prone, unfortunately, over a number of seasons. And Jake Waterman has been in and out of the side as well through illness and injury. So it's so great to see him, back to full strength, full health, and doing what he's doing in a side that, as you said, isn't necessarily getting the wins week in, week out. He's not overly big either, is Jake Waterman, but he's so strong. He protects the flight of the ball beautifully, the fall of the footy, and he's dead eye.
Yes.
But as you said, for Oscar Allen to come back in now, it is the sense of how do I fit in with what Jake's doing, because we don't want to change the way that he's been able to impact games for us.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Obviously, he played early in his career under Kennedy and Darling, and he was kind of that third fiddle that was in and out of the side. And now he's been able to solidify himself as a genuine forward in the comp. You hope, as you said, when Oscar Allen comes in, they can work together. But really, at the moment, it is Waterman's forward line. So hopefully for him, he can still stamp his authority on games, and Oscar Allen can kind of, like you said, they can work together, and he can kind of get some game time under his belt in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully that doesn't take away on Jake's impact.
Yeah.
Potentially it will. Hopefully it doesn't, because I love the way he goes about it. I'm the same as you. I think he has fun out there. He's always smiling, laughing. He looks like a great teammate when he's out there with everyone else. So hopefully he can get his form, can continue his form. But 33 goals for a 26-year-old, like, he's taken a long time to now really reach the prime of his career and showing what his best is, which is great for a 26-year-old, because you normally see this at 22, 23, and you kind of reach that period of your career then. But he's now doing it at later stages, and it's great to see.
I'm very intrigued to see how Oscar Allen finds the balance, right? You're the captain of the club. You want to come in and you want to impact straight away, but as a leader, you need to identify what Jake Waterman has been able to do for this football club as well, and support him. Not come in and say, I need to be the number 1 guy, I'm the captain, I'm the leader, I need to show my worth. You need to come in there and kind of play Robin to Batman, don't you?
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to work it out too.
Oh, yeah.
Oscar Allen's a very talented young
He's
player
a ripper.
and a really good young leader
Absolutely.
too. But it's exciting for West Coast. So you think about how many negative stories there have been about the Eagles in the first half of the season. At the moment, we're talking about Jake Waterman. We're talking about Oscar Allen coming back, Elliot Yeo re-signing, Harley Reid's back in a week. Things are a lot better for West Coast than what they were at the start of the year, which is fantastic. As was the Australian Football Hall of Fame last night. One of the best nights on the footy calendar. If you're a purist and you love the game for not only what it is now, but what it has been in the past, and honouring those and the contributions that they've made, then this is your night. And last night was a fantastic one. Chris McDermott, Ralph Robertson, Kelvin Templeton, Dane Swan, Ray Schofield, and Michael Graham all inducted into the Hall of Fame. And our very own Jason Dunstall, the Chief, elevated to legend status. It was a brilliant night.
How good was Jason Dunstall's speech as well? And so well deserved for him, elevated into legend status. He's the humblest of humble humans. But an incredible honour for all of these guys to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, Chris McDermott, for me, the first ever captain of the Adelaide Crows that I've grown up, idolising and supported. So it's such a special night, and so great to see them surrounded by their friends and their family to be there for such a pivotal moment in their life.
Yeah, exactly. It's an amazing night on the football calendar. I unfortunately didn't watch it because I was in bed about 6:30 last night.
Oh, right, Grandpa.
Well, yeah. Well, I had the injection yesterday, so I was quite under the weather.
Knocked you about.
Knocked me out. But it's funny. The outlier in that is Swanee, like the younger guy wearing the black shirt. Everyone else has got the white
Black on
shirt.
black.
With the bow
Knuckle
tie.
tats coming through this.
It's a great photo.
How good? How
He
good
dropped
was
about
his?
5 Fs and 3 shits in the first 3 minutes of his speech.
How good was his speech though? When he said, "I screen numbers I don't know." It was Richard Goyder. He thought he was in trouble. He's called his manager to be like, "Right, what do we do? Let's put a plan together. Which incident could it be?"
The other part was when he said, I'm honoured to be up there. I mean, you could have played his whole speech on this show. It was awesome, but some of the names that I'm sort of associated with, normally people that are associated with me, that their names are on a door list at a good or bad nightclub.
Well, this is the thing.
So
I've done a lot of sporties with him, especially around Anzac Day, and you can't compete with him on stage.
You try,
but you've just got to be you just got to be yourself, because he's one of the all-time greats to have on stage and hear him speak, tell stories, whatever. But he's the only one, obviously, I played against in that era, and he deserves that fully. I read some comments on social media that day about why he was in there or whatever, but he was a genuine superstar and one of the hardest players I've ever played against. The way he played on the footy field and his tank, and the way he could explode from stoppages, he fully deserved for him to be in there for Melbourne.
Congratulations to everyone last night. Honours well and truly deserved. On the other side of this, we talk Friday night footy. The Bombers, Zach, we need to talk about what's going on with them at the moment as well. And the Giants and Swans, that's all to come on Footy Talk. And of course, if you're listening to us on Spotify, then hit the bell. You'll be notified when we drop a new episode. And don't forget to check us out on Instagram at @FootyTalk_pod. Nice to be with you for Wednesday's edition of Footy Talk. David Zaharakis, Abbey Holmes and Jack Heverin. Don't forget, tomorrow, Daisy and Heater will be back. Cam Zurhar to join them in the studio. That could be...
one.
I feel like every week we say that could be anything. But
It really could.
Cam Zurhar, especially after the weekend, that could be anything. Hey, Friday night footy, big one now all of a sudden. Geelong and Carlton, Paddy Dangerfield back. Last time they met, it was one of the biggest games of the season so far, Twilight Footy, which Geelong won in a really, really good contest.
Yeah, it's Wednesday, hump day. We can start previewing the round to come, and it all kicks off on Friday night at the MCG. And this is huge. This is huge. Carlton versus Geelong. Paddy Dangerfield returning for the Cats for the first time since round 7. So that's a massive boost for them straight up. But I don't know. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on how this one is going to play out. But this midfield battle is huge. You look at Carlton's superstars in, Walsh and Cripps, what they've been able to do. Paddy Dangerfield's coming back in there. But Danger probably won't spend a lot of time in that midfield.
Wouldn't think so.
No. So he will be spending some significant time forward, probably managed minutes across the entirety of the game as well. But I'm interested to see what the Blues are going to do with Chincotta as well. Do they send him to Danger straight up to just say, no, you're not coming back in tonight and going to have a big influence? Or do they send him to Tommy Stewart, which a lot of teams have been doing, is tagging him out of the game? So there's a lot of, I guess, midfield, but other matchups around the ground, which are going to be pivotal in the way that this one plays out.
Yeah, well, I mean, we spoke early in the year, Geelong, their forward and back line's just as good as anyone, but it was their midfield. And I mean, they've gone 1-5 in the last 6 games. Their midfield's really been tested with Danger out of their side. And like we said, he might not play much midfield here, but that matchup there, I think Carlton's midfield has so much more talent than the Geelong midfield in there, and they can really expose them. Carlton, for mine, obviously besides Sydney, one of the informed teams in the comp right now. It's going to be a real challenge for Geelong to try and match them in that regard. I think Carlton obviously beat Essendon last week, and they're playing some really good footy, sitting second now on the ladder. But the challenge is going to be for Geelong, how can they win clearances, get the ball in their forward half, timing forward half, give their great forwards, Cameron, Hawkins, a chance to kick a winning score. Because otherwise, if the ball lives in Carlton's forward line for most of the game, I think it'll be a fairly one-sided game if that happens.
Hawkins needs just 4 goals to reach Richo's 800 goals. We had our Tuesday meeting ahead of Friday night footy, and Richo, his face, it just dropped. It's like, come on. But Tom de Koning as well, he's one that... He's always been a quality young player coming up, but he's really starting to hit his stride. What he did against Essendon last Sunday night was super impressive. He wins his own ball as soon as it hits the ground. He's a high clearance ruckman now. So whether it is Stanley or whether they run, with the younger...
Conway.
Conway.
Yep.
It's going to be an interesting battle there as well.
It's amazing for a ruckman to lead the disposals for a side.
Yes.
He had 24 disposals, which is a huge
11
impact.
clearances as well,
11
something
clearances,
crazy.
exactly.
Yeah.
It goes back to what you were talking about. in the first seg about players starting to reach their potential
Yes.
in the mid-20s.
Yes.
This is around the sweet spot for Tom De Koning now.
It
isn't
is. And he's obviously played under some other ruckmen early in his career and developed his game. And obviously ruckmen are usually the ones that take a little bit longer. They do normally peak at 24, 25, 26 because they might be playing under someone else for a couple of years in their career. So it's great for him to really stand up now and have a great impact. And I know he provides so much variety for Carlton around the ground. So a little bit more, dynamic than the rather up Pitnet for him. So he helps probably out around the ground a bit more. And then for them, that's a weapon they can use for an intercept marker or someone who can actually get 11 clearances and impact the stoppages as well.
I'm going to put you both on the spot. If you had to tip a winner now for this game, who is it?
Easily for me, Carlton.
Carlton.
Easily?
Yeah.
Carlton easily.
Carlton.
Sound like you were pretty easily
easy.
too, Ads. What about the Bombers? We have spent a lot of time on this Wednesday show this year talking about the Bombers, mainly because you've made us, Zachar, and pump them up every week, make sure they get a mention. It's hard to walk past, though, at the moment that they've only beaten one team inside the top 8. Their wins are against 12th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. They aren't going to get a chance to take a big scalp this week because they're playing West Coast, and I'm not saying that that's a certainty, but how big of a problem is that for them?
Geez, I mean, first of all, I'll say I'm pretty happy if the headline reads the Bombers have slipped to 4th. Like, if we're slipping to 4th, especially over our last 10 years, that's a pretty good sign of how we're going overall. But look, I've never been one to subscribe to wins against, like you said, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. You've got to play the fixture in front of you. Sure. And if we had lost to 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, we're sitting further down on the ladder and we're not going well. So you can't blame sides for winning who they're playing against. We've only lost 4 games out of 13 for the year. And yes, if it is against top 8 sides, fine. But you can finish the season 4th or 5th and still beat majority sides below you and lose to sides above you. So I've never been one to subscribe to that. But then it does mean in finals, if you make it, you got a bit of a challenge of actually winning games. So for me, big challenge this week against West Coast, coming off a bye. West Coast are playing a lot better footy. The game against Carlton, I watched overseas. Excuse me. Watched overseas and sorry.
It's good. He's getting emotional talking about it.
The game when I watched overseas, the Bombers actually played pretty good footy for the majority of that.
They did.
And they dominated a lot of stats in that game. But Carlton were just so much more efficient going forward. So I do think we're still playing some good footy and have the ability to win games against top quality opposition. But like I always say, bad kicking is bad footy, and that's what they had in that game.
Absolutely, and I'm with you on that. I was in the rooms post-game on that Sunday night, and we touched on the fact that the Bombers had a softer fixture, right, up until that point. As you said, they've won against sides that have been sitting outside the top 8, but they really did take it up to the Blues in that game. It blew out to 26 points at the end of it, yes, but they showed that their football does stack up against these top 4 sides. Carlton playing off in a prelim the year prior. So their best is good enough, but it is being able to put that together consistently, 4 quarters as we talk about, but week in, week out as well.
After this is West Coast at Marvel, but then we've got Geelong and Collingwood our next 2
good tests.
Saturday and Friday night games. So 2 good tests to see where we're at. Then Melbourne. So we got 3 big games at the G on a Fridays and Saturday nights. So that's the Bombers' next 3 weeks after this. We're not saying this week's an easy win, but against quality opposition, you guys talking about top 8 or good sides that can contend. All right, what are we going to do against them?
Let's have this conversation in 4 weeks' time then and see where we're at.
Well, you know what that means too, that if the Bombers have got 3 big games at the MCG coming up in the next 3 weeks, that means pre-game cash functions for David Zaharakis.
Got one against Geelong.
Oh, of course. Just think of us, actually. We're talking to the Queen over there. In a word, GWS and Sydney. Sydney are red hot, and they dismantled Adelaide in a fashion on Saturday night that I reckon would have been a bit frightening for some. Are they just rolling on here on the weekend?
Yeah, Sydney. And I know you said in a word, but I'm going to give you my thoughts. I honestly cannot see what side is going to run with them at the moment across 4 quarters. Their fitness, unbelievable. It doesn't matter where they were positioned against Adelaide. They knew that they had another quality half of football in them to run over the top. But that midfield is scary. Joe Amati, we spoke about him on the pod as well. If you've got players like this that are kind of popping up, you're not relying on a Buddy Franklin or somebody in that forward line to kick your goals. They've got such an even spread of contribution across the board from their midfielders to their forwards. They are scary good.
It is a race for second place in the AFL at the moment. I mean, and I know it's only round, this week? 15. So I know there's a long time to go and sides can peak early. But for me right now, it's a race for second. Genuine question for me is, can they get 21 or 22 wins this year? For me, Sydney. Like, if they can run the table from here, they'd be then considered one of the all-time greatest sides. I mean, Essendon lost one game in that 2001 year against the Doggies, was it?
That was the flood game, the Terry Wallace flood game.
So they only lost one. And I generally look at Sydney right now thinking they could run the table and do almost the same. And obviously with one extra game in the season, they could win 22 games. But no one is coming close to them because of that. So Adelaide come out, third quarter, kick a couple of goals, they're up by 15 points. And then Sydney just go, nah, hang on a sec. We're putting the foot down here.
Change the state of
the absolute state of the game. And like you said, they're finding players now like Joel Marty, who had questions on him early in the year. Sydney had 3 tall forwards. Which one of them's going to stand up? He all of a sudden kicks 9. The other 2 are still pretty good forwards too as well. So, plus their midfield's the best in the comp. So I just genuinely can't see anyone beating them.
One little one to finish before we leave, because it is Wednesday and it's Players' Day and we do it a little differently. You two have been out in the field of battle, so you're the perfect people to talk about. But I was thinking about this morning. With Christian Petracca's injury and the fallout from it, we're hearing sort of some suggestions that perhaps some members of the family aren't too happy, and there's been questions asked about the conduct of the medical staff on the day, which has since been cleared by the AFL, but some aren't happy with it. You two are from an era just gone, like you've only recently both stepped away from the game. And I reckon in your eras, you would have still had the power to say, no, I'm fine. Get the doctor away, get the trainer away, leave me alone, I'm good to go. Do you think that Christian Petracca's injury and what's gone on since is going to be a bit of a turning point when it comes to the player having control to be able to send away the medical staff?
It's hard, isn't it? Because you don't have access to a full medical room of X-rays and
it's a lot of money to the AFL to invest in that.
And I believe that they're looking at it at the MCG to have
get hold of the ball right
like
first.
this. But look, I've played with broken ribs. I've played with dodgy hamstrings. I've played with bad knees. As a player, you've got the adrenaline in those moments. But, the medical staff are there. They've got the player front and centre of everything. They don't care about getting 4 points or winning a game of footy. They care about the player. And in that moment, you don't have the facilities or the things to be able to see what's happening inside the body. So Christian Petracca, being the competitive beast that he is, and many of us have done it in the past, we just want to get back out there and help our team. But it's unfortunate that this has played out the way that it has, and it is an injury as bad as what's described as a car accident.
Yeah, so a similar one for mine, 2014, playing against the Doggies at Marvel. I go back and Clay Smith kneed me in the back. So I got a knee to the back, and I felt immediately something kind of go in that instance. And then I went off the ground. And it was kind of just like, it might just be like your back's tighten up, whatever, and had some physio work. And when the physio is getting into the back, I can feel it kind of crunch. And it was just before half-time. And I remember went into half-time, and Hurdy came up and said to me, he goes, do you reckon you could try and get out there and play? And obviously being a player, I'm like, yeah, mate, it's pretty sore, but if you need me down forward, I'll just play forward. And I tried to start the third quarter down forward, and it was just excruciating pain. Again, getting more physio works, more crunching in through there with the thumbs and stuff. And then they ended up subbing me out because I was just cooked. Got a scan on the Monday, and I had 3 broken, like the chicken wings off your vertebrae, transverse processes they are. So I had 1 completely displaced and then 2 cracked. And I missed a week from that because they heal kind of pretty quickly. But in that moment, that was the same. We didn't know. We just thought maybe knee in the back tightened up. Bit of work trying to get back out there, and then in the end you've actually got cracked bones in your back. So that's immediately what it took back to me. Obviously not as bad as him, but it does happen out there where you're a player, you go, I've got a bit of a sore back, but it's pretty good. I just want to get out there and play for your team. But it can have then repercussions down the line like him. I mean, he almost died probably. Like, I don't know how serious it is, but in hospital where he had, I've only read about it.
In
intensive care.
If he's having surgery at 2 a.m, it's pretty serious.
Exactly, it's pretty serious. So, and obviously, for these medical, say an X-ray or a CT or whatever to get in there, these incidents do only happen once every 5 to 10 years. But in the end, it could save a player's life and might not send a player back out on the field. So the NBA have it, the NFL have it at their facilities,
Yeah.
but it is a big expense for the AFL to do it. But as I said, for that 1 in 10 year instance, it might save a player's life.
That's going to see us out for Wednesday's edition of Footy Talk. Abs, where are you this weekend? Everywhere, I'm assuming?
Friday night I'm at the MCG, and then Saturday I'm in Tasmania.
Oh, nice one.
Yeah.
Zaka, go home and rest.
Yeah, thank you. Will do.
Appreciate
Put
you
the knee up.
hobbling your way in here this morning. Don't forget tomorrow, Daisy and Ahita are back. North Melbourne star Cam Zurhaar will be in the studio with them as well. This has been Footy Talk.